The first idea is that, my gosh, look at Silicon Valley today. It's impossible to conceive that Krakow could be like that. And all I have to say is, did you know what it looked like in the 1950s? It started with a couple of companies that actually, Fairchild Semiconductor, these companies that actually got, they started small operations there, expanded over time, then they spun off some new companies, and then other companies emerged from that, and then the whole ecosystem emerged around Stanford as well, together. And so the key is to kind of go back to the roots, not to focus on what it is today, but on the roots.
So my name is Richard Lucas. I call myself a business and social entrepreneur, which means that I start enterprises. I run one medium-sized business, and I'm involved a lot in organizing community and social projects.
Richard Lucas has had an incredible impact on the community. I think the place that we're right now is an effect of a work of a small group of people. I like to think that I'm within that group, but Richard is definitely leading that group. So what he's done during the past couple of years is that he relentlessly helped other people, met with everyone who wanted him, and he invested a lot of money in different startups. Some of them are really good, some of them are not, but he really showed how it can be done, and he brought that spirit to Krakow.
We've got the technical universities, we've got the international companies, we had the local talent, and although I've been told critical mass is not the right phrase, we had the chain reaction that a certain number of things started coming together. Last but not least, people like Google for Entrepreneurs with their community initiatives were very important.
We started that by opening a space in Rynek Główny next to Google office. We provided that space after some analysis showing that actually people in the community don't have a real place to meet. We are now in Habraum, and it didn't exist at that moment.
We have 7 companies in our portfolio, and much more we analyzed, much more we connected with our operators. Because it doesn't mean that we have to invest in something. Sometimes it's just about matching startup, matching partner with the right operator, right people at the operators.
Hubraum Berlin was started like 2.5 years ago. And then after we saw how the things are progressing, Hubraum Krakow, or Hubraum for CEE, was developed as a concept, and then really in a really fast manner Krakow was selected as a city, and basically we set up operations here and opened this place up.
When I first met Ramon, that must have been about 6, almost 7 years ago already. I was just blown away by his energy and by his vision and sort of where he saw moving Cisco, but not only Cisco. I think he very early on recognized the potential of Krakow as a tech hub, and has been working to make that happen.
When I decided to come to Krakow, a lot of people were leaving Poland. And so people were looking at me and thinking to themselves, why are you coming to Poland? Actually, this is actually right at a time when Poland had been in the European Union for a few years, and there was a huge exodus of people going to England, going to Ireland. And so coming here was actually somewhat counterintuitive. But what I could see was the land of opportunity. What I could see were companies, businesses trying to kind of bootstrap themselves and become something new. And I wanted to be part of that. So one of the things about the evolution of the ecosystem in Krakow that I think is actually very good is it's diverse. And diversity, just like an ecosystem in nature, means healthy. It's Habraum, Deutsche Telekom, you have Intel, global multinational, and Cisco, global multinational. So you bring the best filters, the best ideas, what's best of breed across the globe, and you filter all these startup companies, and you basically give them, you kind of fire their imaginations in terms of the things that really push the bleeding edge of what's possible. And that's going to happen partially in Krakow in cooperation with Berlin. It doesn't get better than that. From a Habraum perspective, they're becoming one of the engines for actually creating a magnet of why Krakow, but also challenging that in the sense that not only for the sake of Poland, but actually for the sake of creating global business, right? Because Deutsche Telekom is a global brand. So when they look at the lens of how they look at a startup company in Krakow, they don't think, well, can this conquer the Polish market? Can this conquer the Romanian market? They're thinking about how can this conquer the global market. So Google for Entrepreneurs obviously played a very important space, but then you can kind of see the emergence of, for example, Piotr Willem creating Innovation Nest, and you also have Hub Realm playing in that space. And the beauty from my perspective of Hub Realm is they're coming at it from a very open angle, right? So obviously they're sponsored by Deutsche Telekom, but they're also reaching out to Intel, and now they're also cooperating with Cisco, and now we're actually creating new initiatives that are leveraging not only Krakow, but actually leveraging Krakow as a regional hub. When I think about Innovation Nest, I think about people that basically made wealth and were willing to reinvest it.
I'm the founder and investor and CEO at Innovation Nest, the venture capital fund that has a location just near here.
What I like about Piotr and Marek over at Innovation Nest is that they took a lot of the investment they received as a result of selling out at Onnit, and they're reinvesting that in the community.
Similarly to Richard Lucas, the Innovation Nest has been a building block for the community here. They had Piotr Willem, Marek Kapturkiewicz and Marcin Szelong. They started very early. Presspot, my company, was their very first investment. They invested money in Presspot and they didn't even have fund back in that day. So I think what happened was Piotr invested in us, and then when they got a fund, they bought these shares. So that was very complicated for them, and they went for that anyway. So, and since then I'm trying to help them as much as possible. I think they have Innovation Nest has a very interesting approach. From the very beginning, they tried to push companies global. So I think now that everyone in Krakow says, I want to go global, I want to go global, this is really their hard work through past couple of years. They also help a bunch of companies to actually go to Silicon Valley and see that mindset and bring some of that spirit and some of that mindset back to Krakow.
They're also spending a lot of energy to create bridges to Silicon Valley, which they've realized is actually fundamental, because that's where a lot of the money comes from, or that's actually where you graduate ultimately as a startup company. They're making those investments, and they're making that possible so that we can actually transition to getting that billion-dollar exit, which I think we're all expecting, and I would expect it'll happen relatively soon. But you need a lot of baby steps to get there, and that's what these guys have basically invested their lives into with Innovation Nest.
The reason Krakow is special is like the frozen accident. I do believe we had a combination of success factors in the right moment.
I think that there is this critical mass of entrepreneurs, of tech talent, of ideas, and it is all located in very good environment, in a very good place.
Creating an incubator is not easy work. Creating an incubator in this region where people are still trying to get their arms around what is a startup, how do I do that, is that a career, what is that? They're going through that whole process of investing their own money, and specifically, more importantly, their own time, and creating networks to actually accelerate that.
This is where I see a big sort of shift in the next couple of years. It's going to explode, and it's inevitable. The amount of engineering talent is unprecedented. So it's neck to neck to anything the US or Asia can offer. We just need to realize that and gain the confidence, because that's what I see lacking a little bit. So we still have this subconscious feeling that we are not as good as the West, and that we still cannot, go face to face with anything that they're bringing, and this is wrong.
We're trying to show people what success looks like so we can accelerate everybody by showing these role models.
Because we'll see, okay, Krakow, a year from now, a year back, is a completely different place.
I'm not saying that Krakow will be the Silicon Valley as Silicon Valley is in California. I'm saying that it will be its own version of Silicon Valley, but they should aspire to that.
If Google sees what happened in Krakow, they want to come back. Why should we care, right? We'll be beyond that point when we need them. So they will be competing for best people as they do in any other place, like they do in Silicon Valley. If it happens here, if it repeats, all right. But if it doesn't, nothing bad happens.